Welcome, Virgo, to your in-depth monthly astrology overview and zodiac forecast for June 2026 for the ascendant, the sun, or the moon. Going to share the big themes of the month ahead, first of all, Virgo. Then on screen, your event chart as we come into June always provides a powerful backdrop. I'll then go through each of the influences in detail. At the end of the video, you'll have a clearer picture of what's upcoming in terms of your energy, work, relationships, or finances. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundel. A very warm welcome. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so now to help it to continue to thrive. But please also click or tap the bell notification symbol. There's a sense of potential as you come into this month, particularly around your work, but potential that may require flexing or perhaps even a change. But Mars, the planet of daring, is in a very adventurous part of your chart as you come into this month and will be joined by the so-called wounded healer, Chiron, on the 19th for 3 months. That's exciting. But Mercury, your ruling planet, starts the month right at the top of your chart, seeing you think about those professional opportunities, but quickly moves later on the 1st into the sign of Cancer for 10 long weeks. Cancer is very much to do with nurture and is ruled by the moon, so it's more to do with intuition. Your ruler really prospers when it uses logic and detachment. However, for you personally, these next 10 weeks can be a great chance to think about your long-term plan, but also your network and friendships. And, do you know, even though one tie may be tested at the start of this month, maybe a romantic or professional one, as Venus, the relator, clashes with the strict Saturn. But from week 2 onwards, Virgo, a quite delicious link between Venus and Jupiter, the two planets of fortune, becomes exact on the 9th. It can be truly lucky. How will it be lucky for you? Your ruler Mercury does go into its pre-retrograde shadow on the 13th, and Venus switches and dives deep into your 12th house, which can be very nostalgic, but can also be about separation. What's it going to be for you? However, at the heart of the month, there is a fantastic new moon. If you are wanting to really go for it with your goals and ambitions, this can certainly help you to showcase your talent. But on the 19th, the aforementioned Chiron moves for 3 months into the earthy Taurus, which is very much about our values, our self-worth. But for you, it's about how you value your knowledge. And if you feel your knowledge has gaps, this could show up over these following 13 weeks. However, on the 21st, we have the summer solstice in the north. It's the winter in the south, but it ushers in the sun's arrival into the nurturing Cancer, joining up with Mercury and also the lovely Jupiter. But it's also cardinal quadrant 2, the second 13-week segment of the Western tropical astrological year, which is based on the seasons. So it gives you a chance over those 13 weeks to use your networking skills and your contacts to great effect. But then we have Mars forging a sensational link to Jupiter. Jupiter didn't get off to the best of starts when it first arrived in Cancer last year. It was in a very trying right angle with Saturn. Now, if you've really persevered, lots of rewards can come your way. But towards the end of the month, on the 28th, Mars goes right to the top of your chart, which is going to give you enormous extra determination to have your voice heard, but also to be more assertive. But it is going to be forging a very, very tense conjunction with Uranus. If you're not enjoying your job, it can all come out at the end of the month, particularly as Mercury goes into its second retrograde of the year, again in a water sign, but also there is a full moon in Capricorn, both on the 29th. But then Jupiter, very much to do with faith. It's not just about luck. Optimism and growth moves into a very spiritual part of your situation for a 13-week stay. On the screen now is your event chart. As we came to the end of May, Virgo, we had a full moon, a blue moon in Sagittarius. So there's the moon, still there, just moved on from that exact opposition to the sun. However much you're going for it around your goals, connection to the world, taking on more responsibility, this is a full moon that says, don't forget about your more emotional and personal needs, and also the people providing this support to you. But Uranus, the planet of change, is the most northerly player in your map. Therefore, there is a sense of electric possibilities around work or those aforementioned goals. But if we look at the position of the North Node, your relationships, and South, your personal routines, they're clashing with Uranus. There may be something that's suggested to you. It could be because you're the company or business you work in or sector you work in is shifting and you need to adapt. And that's something we're all faced with at the moment. But equally, it could be that you're wanting to do something that might not quite work with your relationship sector. Just be conscious of that, because with Venus in a square with Saturn at the start of this month, if there is a fragile relationship, I think that could show it up. So I wouldn't make any sudden moves. You need to think them through. What will help you is that Mercury moves into that 11th house around the longer term plan later on the 1st. Now, the sign of Cancer is very much about atmospheres, how we feel, can be our intuition. Mercury thrives on logic and detachment. However, if you can let that emotion in, but balance it with that natural practicality of yours, you'll have the perfect mix. For sure, once Mercury goes into its pre-retrograde shadow, there's probably going to be changes to plan and some cross wires, and that will become more evident towards the end of the month. But I think overwhelmingly, Mercury brings you opportunities this month. And you can see that once Venus moves on from that testing right angle to Saturn, it comes into that exact alliance with Jupiter in the second week of this month. But just to say, as much as Venus clashes with Saturn, the Sun forges an excellent link with Saturn. If you are involved in your own business and you're trying to expand it, your ability to plan things meticulously well is really going to show up, and that's going to be a great asset with that aspect. But from the second week of the month, Venus and Jupiter come in together. It's a very, I wouldn't say rare, but it's not a frequent alliance. And certainly in the sign of Cancer, because Jupiter only visits each zodiac sign every 11, 12, or 13 years, that's why it's not repeated very often. But Jupiter can be about luck, of course. It is in its exaltation in Cancer, and Venus can be about relationships. There may be someone that you encounter in week 2 that you really find very, very attractive. Or if you're aligning with a group of people, perhaps on a lotto or something like that. I'm not suggesting you should bet, but if you choose to do that, you could have some genuine good fortune. But then Venus switches on the 13th into the sign of Leo. Venus has great pride in Leo. And one of the things for you is that you're wanting confidentiality in close relationships, but it could make you hugely nostalgic for someone from your past. I'm not suggesting that you will get in contact or even meet up or you'll rekindle an old relationship, but it's all possible. But what's probably more possible is that if you're not happy in a relationship, that could be a break point, and you may just want a little bit of time to yourself to really gather your thoughts. But also, Venus is about money, and the 12th house can be behind the scenes research. And Venus forges a stunning link to Uranus, a quite beautiful one to Neptune, a powerful opposition to Pluto. So I feel that the conversations you have, whether it is around business or a relationship, can be very important from the 13th onwards. That brings us to the 19th, and Chiron moves to join up with Mars in Taurus. And for you, that's your sector of knowledge. When you were younger, perhaps in your early years, If you didn't have the chance to go to college or university, you trained at the sharp end, you may always have felt that there's something not quite as complete as it could be. And over the next 3 months, you can really think about signing up for a course, furthering your education in some ways. But you can also become much more conscious of any vulnerability around a lack of qualifications or knowledge. But just know that your practicality is your great gift. And sometimes people can have an enormous amount of qualifications and aren't actually very good when it comes to getting things done in a productive way. So don't be too hard on yourself, and also know that Chiron into the ninth house could be where you encourage someone else and show a lot of support and nurture to them. The 21st, however, is the sun arriving in Cancer. So it is social for you. It can be a case of who as much as what if you're still progressing forward with your career hopes. But then Mars forges a very energetic link to Jupiter from then through to the 28th. If you do go away with a friend or a group of people, you're going to have an absolute blast. I think if you're also breaking free from something that, if you had a lot of heavy work demands at the start of the month, or there has been a relationship that hasn't worked out that you have felt rather sad about, doing something that is more vigorous and energetic, but also exciting, can be just the tonic you truly need. But that brings us to the 28th, because Mars moves across that 10th house cusp and comes into contact with Uranus right at the end of the month. If you're not happy in a professional situation, it's going to be very difficult to keep your point of view to yourself. The rebel within you can be aroused. But equally, if you want to do something on your own terms, you can show great courage as June comes to a close and do something really fresh and different, but very bold. But the 29th sees Mercury, your ruler, go into its second retrograde of the year, and also the full moon in Capricorn. But for you, that's the fifth house, the sun in the 11th house, your long-term plan. That full moon asks you, are you really manifesting your true talent, or are you fitting in with others a bit too much? But then the big change at the end of the month is Jupiter moving into the lovely Leo. And over the next year, you could do a lot of inner work. It may be to do with a more spiritual dimension. It could be around personal development, could be around healing, but you're going to grow a lot around all those areas. It will be truly exciting. And if there has been that draw to someone from your past, I think Jupiter joining up with Venus in Leo could just give you a bit more push to think, do I get in touch or not? I'm going to summarize those 4 areas for you next, Virgo, of energy, work, relationships, and finances. But just to say, I've reduced the price of my personal horoscope reports. It's now 3 for the price of 1. For many years, it's been 30% off too. You could buy them individually, of course. I realized that the cost of living has gone up and people are feeling that. And what you pay for is your life roadmap report, which helps us to understand the patterns that play out in our lives, get a more intimate understanding of them, but also work with those energy better future forwards. Secondly, you get your 12 months transit forecast free, and also your draconic soul karmic analysis. Now, if your North Node is not late in Pisces or early in Aries in your natal chart, your draconic chart can look very different indeed. It helps us to look at life, astrology, and ourselves in a very different way. Please see below for more. If you've yet to watch your Gemini season 1 month forecast, please see that on the screen. If you've yet to watch your Mars in Taurus 6-week forecast, that's on the screen. If you'd like to work with me one-to-one, it would be an absolute pleasure. I work with people the world over. Please see my testimonials below. And if you've yet to sign up for your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each day, please do so. I do think that some people can be quite sniffy about daily horoscopes, but if they're written well and they're featuring the key influence of any given day. They can provide a lot of commentary and oversight as we work through the week. But also, you can read them for your ascendant, your moon, your sidereal sun, your friend, your ex partner, whoever you wish. Please see below for more. So, to summarize, if you're enjoying what you're doing professionally and you feel really motivated and your support structure in terms of your home and emotional life is good, I think you can go from strength to strength this month. If you're finding it a bit of a conflict between moving forwards and doing something different and sticking with what you know, I think that conflict can actually be quite draining. And it will be important to try to clarify that. In terms of your finances, having the planet of money, Venus, in a challenging right angle with Saturn in your house of long-term shared resources does point towards maybe tension about which direction to take in a particular association. It might be a personal one, it may be a business tie. However, what you do have is Mercury moving into your sector of friendship and long-term planning is definitely a good news story. And that link between Venus and Jupiter can definitely be lucky. If you do like a flutter, I feel week 2 is definitely the time to go for it. When it comes to relationships, the North Node being on that seventh house cusp and clashing with Uranus, you need support around your relationships, but equally you could meet someone through your work. It just depends on your situation. But at the end of the month, with Mars, the planet of assertion, but also of raw sexual energy, meeting with Uranus, if there is someone that you're encountering in your worldly interactions, that relationship could spark very, very quickly. Whether it lasts very long is another matter.